I've been using my GoPro for a while now. I have a GoPro Hero 8 Black. This is what it looks like. This is a great little camera. I'm very surprised at these because they're so tiny, and yet they pack tons of processing and capacity. It's just amazing. I use this, but in the course of using this thing in the shop, there are a bunch of things that show up that I'm going to tell you about because I learned over time how to do things in the shop with a GoPro. And the biggest thing for me is just simply the amount of material in the air. You know, this isn't a machine shop, this is a wood shop. And as a consequence, there's dust almost everywhere. And so there's a bunch of things that happen there. The other thing I'm going to talk about is the mounting. So, you know, if these little cameras seem to be primarily made for, you know, the skydivers, the bullfighters, and the racers of the world, and not really set up too much for super close macro kinds of shots and things like that, particularly in an area where there's whirling machinery and blades and things that'll cut you in half. So I've done a lot of experiments with this, and here's my experience. Okay, the first thing is you got to figure out how you're going to hold your camera, because you're in the shop, you're using both your hands, and the camera, you can't be picking it up and pointing at things all the time. It just makes people sick, gives them car sickness. So I need the camera to be fairly stationary, and I cut from scene to scene as best I can. So here's what you do. You have camera mounts, and so when you buy the GoPro, they sent me this mount. So this mount connects to the GoPro here, and then this affixed to some surface. Actually, they included another thing. They included this little guy here, which clips to like a helmet. Okay. This isn't going to work for me in the shop so much, but over the course of a couple weeks, actually more than a couple weeks, maybe a month, I collected a few things. And an experiment to see if I could get my camera held down. Okay, all of this is GoPro special mounts. But give me a break. I mean, even gorillas don't have hair on their neck. Okay, so in the world of other cameras, for a long time now, there's been a few standard mounts. And one of them is just a simple 1/4 inch screw, 20 threads per inch, normally called a 1/4 20 screw, that you screw into the bottom of your camera. That works for cameras, it works for other mounts, it works for lights, it works for microphones. These are pretty much the standard deal. There's another form factor of 3/8. If you have a larger camera like a view camera, there's 3/8. And so I have a few existing mounts that I already have on my tripods for other normal film or digital cameras. None of these work, of course, straight away with the GoPro. So you have to come up with something. I will point out, in this particular GoPro mount, which is the quick release, the underside is they have 1/4 20 screw holes. So you could use this on a regular camera tripod, which I have, but I really wanted to see if I could come up with something different. And that's what I'm going to show you. Some of you are going to know what this is. This is a magnetic base. I have about 4 of these things around the shop. I use these for all my measuring out, run out, and things like this in my tools. This is a constant, operation to make sure that everything's running square and straight and true. And I use these to effectively clamp, because this is a big magnet right here, clamp to the iron surfaces, and then hold through this mechanism here my dial indicator or whatever tool I need to do. And this happens to be a 3/8 diameter hole, because this is a standard size for a lot of measuring tools, bodies of measuring tools. And I happen to know that a 1/4 20 socket head cap screw, the specifications for this head, the diameter, is 3/8 of an inch or a little more. There's a max and a min here. And you'd think, wow, that ought to just fit perfect in there, and clamp down on that. And that would give me a screw that I can use to hold any 1/4-20 camera mount. And this gives me a magnetic base holding a camera. I thought this was a great idea. Turns out these screws, they're an import. They're not the best, and would not characterize them within being tolerance. I mean, the hex key works and the threads are true, but everything else is a bit wanky. So when I put this in here, I may or may not be able to clamp that. Yeah, I'm clamped, and yet the screw slides in and out, so it's undersized. So I have some of these, and these are cheap and easy to get, and I thought, well, gosh, what could I do to improve this? And I realized that what I could do is simply print a little collar to put around this that was the size I needed, maybe a bit oversized, and then clamp on the collar. So here, let me show you. Okay, we're not in the shop, we're in the office. And we're looking at my Fusion 360, Autodesk Fusion 360, which I use to design 3D printable parts. And I use this a lot. In this particular case, we're going to create a little collar, like I talked about before, that I can use to thread a 1/4-20 screw through the center of, and yet the outer diameter can be clamped in the Noga clamp. And so this is a simple part. It starts by creating a cylinder, which is at the proper dimensions. I extrude that to be a physical cylinder with the outside diameter of it a little bit oversized from 3/8 with an inside diameter of the inner thread diameter of the 1/4-20 screw. And I put a little bevel on it because who doesn't like nice things? So I'm going to 3D print this, but I have to tell you, I don't have the camera for my 3D printer anymore. It turns out that this is being done in the middle of this pandemic, and everyone is working at home, and the camera was disconnected from the printer to be made use of by another member of the household to do video calls. So you're just going to have to trust me that I'm taking this and printing it, and you'll see me back in the shop. And this lets me mount the base on any ferrous surface. This will not work, this is aluminum, but this works fine. Here's the mount for the camera. And remove, this is a small Noga base. It's very, very convenient. You just tip it to release it. And off it comes. I'll show you a bigger base here in a minute. Here's the GoPro setup with a larger Noga base. This is my favorite setup. This is a switch. You can turn this on and off. When it's in the plus position, it's mag locked to the surface. Turn it to negative, it turns it off. Be careful in turning it to negative though, because this will be out of balance and it'll topple over. So always hang on to your stuff, whether it's got your GoPro on here or your dial indicator or any of those things. But this is it. This is fairly cheap solution to a problem that plagued me for a while. And I say this is cheap. I'm pointing to the screw with the little collar that I printed. This is not cheap. You can check it out on any machinist's website, or even Amazon has these. I highly recommend Noga. There are other brands or imports. I don't know anything about them, so buyer beware. But the Noga is fantastic. Now, I'm often accused of overdoing things, and so in that spirit, I'm going to continue this a little bit further down this same path. So you're looking at a shoulder bolt. This bolt, actually this bolt's beautiful, and I can go through that a little bit with you. I got this through Bolt Depot, which I highly recommend. This bolt is a 3-inch shoulder bolt, 3/8 in diameter here, but the threaded portion is 1/4 by 20 threads per inch. It's a hex drive. It's gorgeous on all aspects of this thing. It's fantastic. This isn't cheap, but let me show you what I did with it. Here is basically the same arrangement as before. I have my Noga base, my bigger one. And then I use this 3/8 shoulder bolt, slip through the fixture here into my 1/4-20 adapter for the GoPro. There's a little jam nut here because this threaded portion is too long. So I tighten it up with here. But this gives me a little flexibility with being able to slide this up and down if I needed the extra adjustment. So there, this is actually pretty simple. I definitely overdid it though. This 3/8 stainless is beautiful stuff. I almost hate to use it. All right, See ya.